Get your filthy hands off my books.
I'm a volunteer. I was assigned to.
I don't care. Where did you crawl out of the garbage dump? Disgusting.
Brooke Ashford stood over Whitney Quinn, the mayor's daughter, 21.
I'm just doing my job.
Your job is to kneel down and use that ugly black face of yours to mop the floor. Understand?
That silence made Brooke snap.
Did the cat eat your tongue? Let me help you open your mouth, stinking trash.
Her palms slammed hard against Whitney's cheek.
You deserve it, you stinking, filthy dog!
Guests froze. Whitney didn't flinch. She held the children's book steady. 19. The only black face in the room. Brooke still didn't know. Who was that silent black girl she had just slapped? Whitney's cheek burned. The handprint pulsed hot under her skin. She didn't raise her hand to touch it. She didn't cry. She stood there holding those children's books like they were the only thing keeping her upright. Brooke stepped closer. Still here? You really are dumb as you look. A security guard jogged over, mid-40s, name tag read Collins. He'd seen the whole thing from across the lobby. Ma'am, I need to ask you to step back, he said to Brooke. Brooke laughed. Not a nervous laugh, a laugh that came from years of never hearing the word no. Do you know who I am? My father is the mayor of this city. He built this library. Collins hesitated. That hesitation told Whitney everything. Power had already entered the room before Brooke even said a word. She assaulted me first, Brooke said, loud enough for everyone to hear. She grabbed my arm when I walked past. Whitney's stomach dropped. That's not true. Who do you think they're going to believe? Brooke whispered. You or me? 3 guests nearby had watched the entire exchange. Not one opened their mouth. A woman in a silk blouse looked at the floor. A man in a gray suit suddenly found his phone fascinating. Collins shifted his weight. Miss Ashford, maybe we should wait for your father to... Call him. Call my father right now. Brooke straightened her jacket. Tell him some street girl is causing a scene at his event. Collins reached for his radio. Whitney watched him press the button. She watched him choose a side without saying a single word. 2 more guards arrived within minutes. They didn't ask what happened. They didn't look at the red mark on Whitney's face. They looked at Brooke, then at Whitney. And the math was already done. Miss, we're going to need you to come with us, the taller one said to Whitney. Whitney held the books tighter. I didn't do anything wrong. We just need to sort this out in the back. In the back. Away from the cameras, away from the guests, away from anyone who might actually listen. Brooke smiled. The kind of smile that said, I always win. The 2 guards flanked Whitney like she was a suspect, one on each side. Neither touched her, but the message was clear. Move, or we'll make you move. Whitney walked. She kept her chin up. The children's books were still in her arms because no one had offered to take them, and she wasn't about to drop them on the floor. Brooke followed 3 steps behind. She wasn't done. Can you believe this? Brooke said to the guests they passed. Her voice carried. She wanted it to carry. I come to my own father's event, and this person puts her hands on me. A couple in matching navy blazers stepped aside. The woman clutched her husband's arm like Whitney was contagious. She hit me, Brooke announced. Right across the face, and security is just walking her out, that's it? Whitney stopped. She turned. I never touched you. Keep moving, miss, the shorter guard said. His jaw was tight. He knew. Whitney could see it in the way he wouldn't meet her eyes. He knew the truth, and it didn't matter. They reached the side hallway near the administrative offices. Fluorescent lights, no chandeliers here, no flower arrangements. This was the part of the building where problems got handled quietly. Wait here, the taller guard said. Whitney stood against the wall, the books pressed against her chest. Her cheek still throbbed where Brooke's handprint was fading from red to a dull, hot purple. Brooke leaned against the opposite wall, arms crossed, studying Whitney like a cat watching something trapped. "You know what I don't understand," Brooke said. "How they even let people like you volunteer." "What did you do? Fill out some diversity form? Check the little box?" Whitney said nothing. "Oh, the silent treatment, cute." Brooke pushed off the wall and stepped closer. "Let me guess. Scholarship kid, Section 8. Which program dragged you in here?" "I signed up," Whitney said. "Same as everyone else." "Same as everyone else." Brooke repeated it slowly, mocking. She turned to the guards. "Do you hear her? Same as everyone else. Like she's the same as us." The shorter guard shifted his weight. He looked at the floor. Brooke turned back to Whitney. Her eyes dropped to Whitney's shoes. Plain white sneakers. Clean, but worn. "Where did you get those? Goodwill? Salvation Army?" Brooke's nose wrinkled. "I can smell the thrift store from here." Whitney's grip tightened on the books. Her knuckles ached. "But you didn't put them down." She wouldn't give Brooke the satisfaction. "Nothing to say?" "Good." Brooke reached over and flicked Whitney's volunteer badge. The plastic clip snapped. The badge fell to the floor with a small clatter. Whitney looked down at it. Her name, printed in block letters. Whitney Quinn, volunteer. "Pick it up," Brooke said. Whitney didn't move. "I said, pick it up." Brooke's voice dropped low. "That's what you're good at, right? Picking things up, cleaning things, serving. That's in your blood." The taller guard cleared his throat. "Miss Ashford, maybe we should—" "Shut up. I'm talking." He shut up. Brooke crouched down and picked up the badge herself. She held it between two fingers like it was dirty. Read the name. "Whitney Quinn." She smirked. "Quinn, that's a nice name. Almost sounds like it belongs to a real person." She dropped the badge into the trash can by the door. It landed with a soft thud on top of crumpled paper towels and empty coffee cups. "There. That's where it belongs." Whitney watched her name disappear into the garbage. Something shifted behind her eyes. Not anger. Something quieter. Something that had learned a long time ago that reacting was exactly what people like Brooke wanted. The hallway door swung open. A woman in her 60s walked through. Mrs. Draper, the library director. Gray hair pinned back, reading glasses on a chain. She'd organized the volunteer program herself. "What's going on here?" Mrs. Draper looked at Whitney, then at the guards, then at Brooke. "Whitney, why aren't you at your station?" "She attacked me," Brooke said immediately. "She grabbed my wrist and—" "That's not what happened," Whitney said. Mrs. Draper looked at the guards. "Is that true?" The shorter guard opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Brooke, looked at the floor. "Ma'am, we're just trying to sort out the situation," the taller one said. Mrs. Draper frowned. She'd known Whitney for 3 months. The girl showed up early, stayed late, organized the entire children's reading corner by herself, never complained once. "Whitney, come with me. We'll figure this out." "No." Brooke stepped between them. "She doesn't go anywhere until my father gets here. He's the mayor. This is his building. His rules." "This is a public library, Miss Ashford. It belongs to the community." "It belongs to whoever paid for it." Brooke smiled, that same smile from the lobby. "And that would be my father." Mrs. Draper's mouth thinned. She wanted to argue. Whitney could see it. But the old woman glanced at the guards, at Brooke's posture, at the political math of this moment, and something in her shoulders surrendered. "I'll call the mayor's office," Mrs. Draper said quietly. She turned and walked back through the door. Whitney was alone again, with the guards, with Brooke, with the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead like indifferent witnesses. Minutes passed. The hallway door opened again. Not Mrs. Draper this time. 3 guests wandered in, looking for the restrooms. A woman in a red dress, a man with silver cufflinks, a younger woman holding a champagne flute. They saw Whitney against the wall, the bruise on her cheek, the guards standing over her. They saw Brooke.
"Oh my God, Brooke, are you okay?"
The woman in red rushed over.
"I heard someone attacked you. Can you believe it?"
Brooke tilted her head toward Whitney.
"That one. She just came at me out of nowhere. I was standing there minding my own business."
The man with silver cufflinks looked at Whitney, then looked away, fast, like making eye contact might make him responsible.
"Someone should call the police,"
the younger woman said. She was already holding her phone up, not to dial, to record.
"Are you filming this?"
Whitney asked. The woman didn't answer. She just angled her phone higher.
"Good,"
Brooke said. "Film everything. Film her. I want everyone to see what kind of people sneak into events they don't belong at." The red light on the phone blinked steadily. Whitney stared at it. She thought about all the videos she'd seen online. Black people pinned against walls. Black people forced to explain why they existed in a space. The camera always rolling, never helping, just watching. "She looks dangerous," the woman in red whispered, loud enough, on purpose. "She's not dangerous," the younger woman said, still filming. "She's just, look at her. She obviously doesn't belong here." Whitney felt something crack inside her chest. Not her composure, something deeper. The part of her that still believed strangers might choose fairness over comfort. Brooke fed off the audience like oxygen. She straightened her posture, dabbed the corner of her eye with one finger, a performance so practiced it looked almost real.
"I just wanted tonight to be special for my dad,"
Brooke said. Her voice trembled. Perfectly trembled.
"He worked so hard on this library. And then she just—"
Brooke pressed her hand to her mouth, shook her head. The woman in red rubbed Brooke's shoulder. "You poor thing." Whitney wanted to scream. She wanted to grab that phone and play back the lobby footage. She wanted to show them the handprint on her face and ask which one of them left it. But she didn't, because she knew how this worked. The louder she got, the more dangerous she'd look. The quieter she stayed, the more guilty she'd seem. There was no right move. That was the design. More people drifted into the hallway. Word had spread. The mayor's daughter got attacked by a volunteer, a black volunteer. People came to look. Some pretended they needed the restroom. Others didn't bother pretending. A man in a pinstripe vest shook his head as he passed. They should screen these people before letting them in. A woman holding a program booklet leaned to her friend. "I heard she was stealing books." "Stealing?" The friend's eyes widened. "At a library opening?" "That's what someone said." No one had said that, but the lie had already started walking on its own legs. It moved from mouth to mouth, growing heavier, more detailed, more certain with every retelling. Whitney stood still, the books in her arms, children's books about kindness, about fairness, about heroes who looked like her, felt like bricks now. Brooke pulled out her phone, started texting. Her thumbs moved fast. "I'm telling all my friends about this," she said without looking up. "The crazy black girl who attacked me at Daddy's library opening. This is going to be hilarious." Whitney's phone buzzed in her back pocket. She didn't check it.
"What's that, your parole officer?"
Brooke laughed at her own joke. Through the hallway window, Whitney could see the lobby filling up. More guests arriving for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Men in suits, women in cocktail dresses. A banner hung from the ceiling. "Greenfield Community Library, a gift to our city." Below the banner, near the main entrance, an event coordinator was adjusting a podium. On the podium sat a plaque. Whitney couldn't read it from here, but she knew what it said. She'd seen it that morning when she was setting up chairs. "In honor of our anonymous benefactor, whose generosity made this dream possible." Anonymous. Whitney's lips pressed together. Not for much longer. Brooke was still texting, still laughing. She held her phone up and snapped a photo of Whitney standing against the wall. "Perfect," Brooke said. "Evidence. When the police come, I want them to see exactly what kind of person did this to me." The taller guard finally spoke. Miss Ashford, I don't think photographs are what? Allowed? My father owns this building. I can do whatever I want. She took another photo. Flash on. The light hit Whitney's face and caught the bruise blooming on her cheek. Dark purple now, unmistakable. Brooke looked at the photo. For a half second, just a half second, something flickered across her face. She'd seen the bruise she left, the proof of what she'd actually done. Then it was gone. She pocketed her phone and crossed her arms. You should have just left when I told you to, Brooke said. None of this would have happened if you'd just known your place. Down the hall, a door opened and closed. Footsteps. Heavy, deliberate, the click of expensive shoes on polished concrete. Whitney heard them first. She straightened up, not out of fear, out of recognition. Brooke heard them too. She smiled. Finally, Daddy's here. But Whitney knew that sound. She'd heard those footsteps her entire life, coming down the hallway of her childhood home, crossing the stage at press conferences, walking through the marble halls of the U.S. Senate. Those weren't Gerald Ashford's footsteps. The footsteps stopped. A phone rang, muffled, distant, and whoever it was turned down a side corridor. Gone. Whitney exhaled, slowly. Before she could process it, the hallway door from the lobby swung open. Gerald Ashford walked through. 56. Silver hair combed back with the precision of a man who checked his reflection before every public appearance. The mayor's suit cost more than most people's rent. He wore it like armor. Two aides flanked him. One carried a tablet, the other carried the look of someone who spent their career cleaning up messes. Gerald scanned the hallway. He saw his daughter first, then Whitney, then the bruise. He looked at the bruise the way a man looks at a parking ticket. Mild annoyance, quickly dismissed. What happened? He said. Not to Whitney, to Brooke. She attacked me, Daddy? Brooke's voice shifted. Softer now, smaller. The predator had become the victim in under 2 seconds. I was welcoming guests, and she just grabbed me. I was so scared. Gerald's jaw tightened. He turned to the guards. Why is she still here? Sir, we were waiting for... I didn't ask what you were waiting for. I asked why she's still here. The taller guard straightened. We'll escort her out now, Mayor Ashford. Wait! Whitney stepped forward. I didn't touch her. She slapped me. Look at my face. Gerald looked at her. Really looked at her. The way someone examines an insect that landed on their dinner plate. Young lady, my daughter is a lot of things, but a liar isn't one of them. Then explain this. Whitney pointed to the bruise on her cheek. The purple had deepened. It was impossible to miss. Gerald didn't blink. You could have done that to yourself. I've seen it before. People looking for attention, looking for a lawsuit. The air left Whitney's lungs. She'd expected denial. She hadn't expected this. The calm, practiced efficiency of a man who'd spent 30 years in politics making inconvenient truths disappear. There are security cameras, Whitney said. In the lobby, they'll show exactly what happened. Something moved behind Gerald's eyes. Fast. A calculation. He turned to his aide with the tablet. Make a note, Gerald said quietly. Talk to the security team about the camera footage. Tonight. The aide nodded. Whitney understood what that meant. Everyone in the hallway understood what that meant. Gerald turned back to Whitney. His voice dropped low, controlled. The voice he used in closed-door council meetings when he wanted someone to understand that their options had just narrowed to one. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to leave this building, right now, quietly. You're not going to talk to anyone on your way out. You're not going to call anyone. You're not going to post anything online. And if I don't? Then I call the Greenfield Police Department. I tell them a volunteer became violent at a city event. I have 2 security guards, my daughter, and a hallway full of witnesses who will confirm exactly what I say. He paused. Do you really want to test that? Whitney looked at the guards. Their eyes were fixed on the wall behind her. She looked at the guests still lingering at the hallway entrance. The woman in red, the man with silver cufflinks, the younger woman who'd been filming. Her phone was down now. Whatever courage recording had given her, Gerald's presence had taken it back. "See?" Brooke said from behind her father. The softness was gone. The real voice was back. "Even my father knows you don't belong here. How many people have to tell you before it sinks in?" Gerald held up a hand. "Brooke, enough." Not because she'd gone too far, because she was saying the quiet part loud. The hallway door opened one more time. Mrs. Draper returned. She'd made her call. She looked at Gerald, then at Whitney, and her face told a story of its own. Someone had spoken to her. Someone had explained how things worked. "Mayor Ashford," Mrs. Draper said. Her voice was different now, thinner. "I apologize for the disruption. We'll make sure the volunteer is escorted out." Whitney stared at her. Mrs. Draper, the woman who'd recruited her, who'd told her the volunteer program was about giving young people a voice in their community, who'd said Whitney was the best volunteer she'd ever had. Mrs. Draper didn't meet her eyes. "Mrs. Draper," Whitney said, "you know me." "I'm sorry, Whitney." The old woman's hands trembled at her sides. "It's best if you go." That was the moment. Not the slap, not the insults, not the badge and the trash. This, the person who knew the truth choosing silence because silence was safer. Whitney felt the last thread of hope in that hallway snap. Gerald checked his watch. "I'm going on stage in 5 minutes. I want this handled before I cut that ribbon." He looked at Whitney one final time. "If you're smart, you'll be gone before I finish my speech." He turned and walked back toward the lobby. His aides followed. Brooke gave Whitney one last look, a look that said, "This is what happens when you forget your place," and trailed after her father. Through the hallway window, Whitney watched Gerald climb the podium steps. He adjusted the microphone, smiled at the crowd. The politician's smile, warm, wide, and worth nothing. "Ladies and gentlemen," Gerald's voice echoed through the building, "welcome to the Greenfield Community Library. This building stands as proof that generosity still lives in our great city." The crowd applauded. "Tonight, we celebrate not just bricks and mortar, but a vision made possible by an extraordinary benefactor who wished to remain anonymous." More applause. Gerald basked in it. He placed his hand on the plaque. "Whoever you are," Gerald said, looking out at the audience with manufactured sincerity, "this city owes you a debt we can never repay. Your generosity has given our children a future." Whitney stood alone in the hallway. The 2 guards had stepped back. Mrs. Draper was gone. The guests had returned to the lobby to watch the speech. She listened to the applause. She listened to Gerald Ashford thank her mother's money with one hand while trying to erase her mother's daughter with the other. Her phone buzzed again. This time she looked. One text. From Mom. "We're here, parking now. Dad's with me. Don't move, baby." Outside the building, 3 black SUVs pulled into the reserved spaces near the main entrance. Tinted windows, government plates. The kind of vehicles that made Secret Service agents stand a little straighter. No one inside noticed. They were all watching Gerald Ashford take credit for someone else's dream. The front doors of the Greenfield Community Library opened. Not the way guests open doors, politely, quietly, slipping in during the speech. These doors opened wide. Both of them, at once. Raymond Quinn walked in first. He didn't look like a man arriving at a party. He looked like a man arriving at a crime scene. 52 years old, 6'3", a charcoal suit that fit like it was born on his shoulders. Behind him, 2 men in dark jackets scanned the room without moving their heads. The kind of scan that only comes with federal security training. Lorraine Quinn followed. 50, elegant, a cream silk blouse and pearl earrings. She carried herself the way old money does. No jewelry screaming for attention, no logo anywhere in sight. Her wealth lived in the silence of her clothes and the set of her jaw. Gerald Ashford was mid-sentence when they walked in. His words stumbled. He knew Raymond Quinn. Everyone in politics knew Raymond Quinn. U.S. Senator, third term, chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. A name that showed up on short lists for Attorney General every time a new administration took office. "Senator Quinn?" Gerald said into the microphone. His voice carried genuine confusion. We weren't expecting—" Raymond didn't look at the stage. He didn't acknowledge Gerald. He walked straight through the lobby, past the applauding crowd, past the banner, past the plaque, and pushed through the hallway door. The crowd murmured. Phones came out. People who hadn't cared about anything 5 minutes ago suddenly cared very much. Raymond found Whitney in 12 seconds. She was still standing against the wall, alone, the children's books still in her arms. He stopped. His eyes went to her face, to the bruise. For 3 full seconds, Raymond Quinn, a man who'd stared down lobbyists, committee chairs, and hostile journalists without blinking, didn't move. He didn't breathe. He looked at the purple swelling on his daughter's cheek, and something behind his expression locked into place. Then he moved. He crossed the hallway in 2 strides and wrapped his arms around Whitney. The books pressed between them. She didn't let them go. "Baby," he said. His voice cracked on the word, just once. What happened? Whitney's composure, the composure she'd held through every insult, every shove, every lie, flickered. Her chin trembled, but she didn't cry. She pressed her face into her father's shoulder and whispered, "I'm okay, Dad." Lorraine was right behind him. She cupped Whitney's face with both hands and turned it gently toward the light. She saw the bruise. She saw the shape of it. 5 fingers. A handprint. Someone had hit her daughter hard enough to leave a map of their rage on her skin. Lorraine's eyes went still. The kind of still that comes before a storm rearranges the landscape. "Who?" One word. That was all Lorraine needed. Whitney looked past her mother, down the hallway, toward the lobby door. Brooke Ashford stood in the doorway. She'd followed her father back toward the stage and was now watching the scene with her mouth slightly open. Her face was cycling through emotions like a slot machine. Confusion, recognition, fear. "Her," Whitney said quietly. Raymond turned. He saw Brooke. He saw the mayor's daughter freeze in place like a deer caught in the sweep of oncoming headlights. Gerald Ashford appeared behind Brooke. He'd left the stage mid-speech. His aides were whispering frantically in his ear. One of them showed him something on the tablet. Probably Raymond Quinn's bio. Probably Lorraine Quinn's net worth. Probably the connection that was about to end his career. Gerald's face went white. Not pale. White. The color of a man watching his entire life unravel in a single hallway. His aide leaned in and whispered 3 words. "Quinn Foundation. Donor." Gerald's knees locked. His hand reached for the wall. He missed. His fingers scraped against the painted drywall and found nothing to hold. The man who'd shaken hands with governors, who'd posed with senators at fundraisers, who'd never once doubted his place in any room, that man was gone. What stood in his place was a 56-year-old politician who'd just realized he'd spent the last hour trying to destroy the daughter of the people who owned his greatest achievement. Brooke saw her father's face. She'd never seen that face before. Not when he lost the county budget vote. Not when the newspaper ran the editorial calling him incompetent. This was different. This was the face of a man who'd just stepped off a cliff and was still looking down. "Daddy?" Brooke's voice was small. "Daddy, what's wrong?" Gerald didn't answer her. He couldn't. His eyes were fixed on Lorraine Quinn. On the pearl earrings, on the cream silk blouse, on the woman he'd spent 3 months trying to identify through his finance office. The anonymous donor. The name his treasurer had begged him to find so he could send a personal thank you note. She'd been standing in his parking lot this whole time, and her daughter had been standing in his hallway with a handprint on her face. "Senator Quinn," Gerald said. His voice was different now. The authority was gone, replaced by something thin and careful. "I had no idea your daughter was... I didn't know she was..." "My daughter," Raymond said, "has been volunteering here for 3 months. She signed up because she believed in this place." He paused. "Tell me, Mayor Ashford, why is she standing in a back hallway with a handprint on her face?" Gerald's mouth opened. Nothing came out. Lorraine stepped forward. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. The hallway was silent enough to hear the fluorescent lights buzzing. "Mayor Ashford," Lorraine said, "5 minutes ago, you were on that stage thanking an anonymous benefactor for making this library possible." Gerald nodded, slowly, like a man stepping on ice that was already cracking. "That benefactor is me." The words landed like a gavel. Gerald's aide dropped his tablet. It clattered against the floor. Nobody picked it up. "The Quinn Foundation donated $14.6 million to build this library," Lorraine continued. "Every brick, every shelf, every book your daughter just insulted my child for touching." Brooke's knees buckled. She grabbed the door frame. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. "I chose to remain anonymous," Lorraine said, "because I believed this library should belong to the community, not to anyone's ego, not to anyone's campaign." She looked at the plaque on the podium, visible through the hallway window, the one Gerald had touched with such pride. "But I see now that my anonymity was taken as an opportunity for you to claim credit, an opportunity for your daughter to terrorize mine." The crowd had followed Gerald into the hallway, 30, 40 people now, packed shoulder to shoulder. Every phone was recording. The woman in red who'd rubbed Brooke's shoulder was now 3 steps back, distancing herself. The man with silver cufflinks had vanished entirely. The younger woman, the one who'd been filming Whitney earlier, pushed forward. "I have video," she said. Her voice shook. "From the beginning. I have all of it." "So do the security cameras," Raymond said. He looked at Gerald. "Unless someone was planning to make that footage disappear." Gerald flinched. The tablet note. "Talk to the security team about the camera footage. Tonight." He'd said it in front of 2 guards. 2 guards who were now staring at the floor like they wished it would swallow them whole. Mrs. Draper appeared at the edge of the crowd. Her face was ash gray. She looked at Whitney, then at Lorraine. Her mouth trembled. "I'm sorry," Mrs. Draper whispered. "I should have." "Yes," Lorraine said. "You should have." The shorter security guard stepped forward. He pulled off his earpiece. His hands were shaking. "Ma'am," he said to Lorraine, "I saw everything. From the beginning. The young woman, Miss Ashford, she struck your daughter first. Unprovoked. I saw it. I should have said something. I didn't." He looked at Whitney. "I'm sorry." One admission broke the dam. A guest near the back raised her hand. "I saw it too. The girl in the white sneakers never touched anyone." Another voice, then another. The people who'd been silent, who'd watched, who'd whispered lies about stealing. They were rewriting themselves in real time. Brooke was shaking. Tears streamed down her face. Not performed tears this time. Real ones. The kind that come when the consequences finally catch up. "Daddy," Brooke said. "Daddy, do something." Gerald Ashford looked at his daughter. He looked at Senator Quinn. He looked at the woman who'd written the check that built the building he'd just claimed as his own achievement. For the first time in his political life, Gerald Ashford had no move left. No aide to whisper a strategy, no podium to hide behind, no power left in the room that belonged to him. He opened his mouth to speak. Raymond held up one hand. "Don't!" That was all he said. One word from a man who passed laws for a living. Don't. Gerald closed his mouth. Lorraine Quinn walked out of the hallway and into the lobby. She didn't rush. She moved with the kind of calm that made people step out of her way without being asked. She climbed the 3 steps to the podium. Gerald's podium. The one with the plaque. The one with the microphone still on. The crowd went quiet. Not polite quiet. Afraid quiet. "My name is Lorraine Quinn," she said. Her voice was steady, no tremor, no rage, just facts delivered with the precision of a woman who'd negotiated billion-dollar deals before breakfast. "I am the founder of the Quinn Foundation, and I am the anonymous benefactor Mayor Ashford just thanked so generously on this stage." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Heads turned, phones angled higher. $14.6 million, Lorraine said. "That's what my foundation invested in this building. Every beam, every window, every book on every shelf. I chose to remain anonymous because I believed this library belonged to this community, not to my name, and certainly not to Mayor Ashford's political campaign." Gerald stood at the bottom of the podium steps. His aides had abandoned their positions beside him. They stood 10 feet back now, already calculating their exit strategies. "Tonight," Lorraine continued, "my 19-year-old daughter came here as a volunteer. She came to shelve children's books. She was slapped across the face by the mayor's daughter. She was called filthy. She was called an animal. She was told her place was on her knees." A gasp moved through the room like a wave, and when she asked for help, when she told the truth, the mayor himself threatened to call the police on her. He tried to bury the security footage. He ordered her removed from the building his family did not pay a single cent to build. Gerald stepped forward. "Lorraine, Mrs. Quinn, please. If we could just discuss this privately." "Privately?" Lorraine repeated the word like it tasted rotten. "You wanted my daughter removed privately. You wanted the cameras erased privately. Now you want to negotiate privately." She shook her head. "No. You made this public when your daughter struck mine in front of 50 people." She reached down and lifted the plaque from the podium, held it up for the crowd to see. "In honor of our anonymous benefactor, whose generosity made this dream possible." "Effective immediately," Lorraine said. "The Quinn Foundation is withdrawing all ongoing operational funding for this facility. Additionally, I am instructing my legal team to ensure that this building is renamed. It will no longer carry any association with Mayor Ashford or his office." She set the plaque face down on the podium. The sound of it hitting the wood echoed through the silent lobby. "This library will be called the Quinn Community Library, and it will serve the people of this city, all of them, the way it was always intended to." Raymond had his phone to his ear. He spoke quietly, but in the silence of the lobby, every word carried. "District Attorney Harwell, Raymond Quinn. I need to report an assault on a minor. Correction, a young adult. My daughter, 19 years old. The assailant is Brooke Ashford. The incident occurred at the Greenfield Community Library approximately 45 minutes ago. There is security camera footage and multiple eyewitnesses. I'd like charges filed tonight." He paused, listened. "Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it." He hung up. The click of the phone was the loudest sound in the building. Gerald's composure finally cracked. His political mask, the one he'd worn for 3 decades, slipped off like wet paper. "Senator Quinn, please," his voice broke. "She's my daughter. She's 21. She made a mistake. If this goes to the DA, it'll ruin her life." Raymond looked at him. "Your daughter slapped mine hard enough to leave a bruise that won't fade for a week. She called her filthy. She called her a dog. And when my daughter stood there and took it, when she didn't raise her voice, didn't raise her hand, your daughter hit her again with her words, over and over. She's young. She didn't mean." "And then you showed up," Raymond said. And instead of being a father who teaches his child accountability, you became a politician who protects his brand. You threatened my daughter. You tried to destroy evidence. You used your office to silence a 19-year-old girl who'd done nothing wrong. Gerald's legs gave. He sank to one knee on the polished lobby floor. Not a bow, a collapse. The crowd gasped. Camera shutters erupted like automatic fire. The mayor of Greenfield, the man who'd cut ribbons and kissed babies and shaken every hand in the county, was kneeling in front of a black family whose daughter he'd tried to throw away like garbage an hour ago. "Please," Gerald whispered, "I'm begging you. Don't do this to my family." Raymond looked down at him. "You did this to your family. Every decision tonight was yours." Brooke stumbled forward, mascara streaked, hands shaking. She tried to reach for Whitney, some desperate last-ditch attempt at an apology that was already too late. "I'm sorry," Brooke said, her voice cracked on both words. "I didn't know. I didn't." "You didn't know who my parents were," Whitney said. Her voice was even, calm, devastating in its stillness. "But that shouldn't have mattered. You should have treated me like a human being, whether my mother was a billionaire or a janitor. That's the part you still don't understand." Brooke's mouth opened. Nothing came out. She looked at her father on his knee. She looked at the phones recording from every angle. She looked at the faces in the crowd. The same faces that had smiled at her an hour ago, now staring at her with something between pity and contempt. She sank down next to her father. Two Ashfords on the floor. The lobby silent except for the hum of recording devices. Lorraine delivered the final line. Quiet, precise, surgical. "You had a chance to do the right thing, Mayor Ashford. One chance. All you had to do was look at that bruise on my daughter's face and say, 'I'm sorry.' Instead, you chose your daughter's pride over a young woman's dignity. That choice has consequences." The lobby erupted, not with applause, with sound. Voices overlapping, phones ringing, the click of cameras, the shuffle of people repositioning themselves on the right side of history. The videos hit social media within minutes. The first one, filmed by the younger woman from the hallway, showed Brooke's slap from 6 feet away. Crystal clear. The caption read, "Mayor's daughter slaps black teen volunteer at library. She didn't pay for." The sound of the palm was unmistakable. Within 20 minutes, #JusticeForWhitney was trending locally. Within an hour, nationally. A local news van pulled up outside, then a second, then a national affiliate. Reporters poured through the front doors. Gerald Ashford, the man who'd spent his career courting cameras, now couldn't escape them. "Mayor Ashford, did you attempt to suppress security footage? Mayor Ashford, will you resign? Mayor Ashford, do you have a comment on the assault?" Gerald pushed through the crowd. His aides had disappeared completely. He was alone, the most alone he'd been in 30 years of public life. Brooke sat on the bottom step of the podium, the same podium her father had stood on, the same podium Lorraine had just used to dismantle her family's legacy. Brooke's mascara ran in black lines down her cheeks. Her hands shook in her lap. She wasn't performing anymore. For the first time in her 21 years, Brooke Ashford was sitting inside a consequence she couldn't charm, bully, or cry her way out of. She looked across the lobby at Whitney. Whitney was standing between her parents, her mother's arm around her shoulders, her father's hand on her back. The children's books were still in her arms. Brooke opened her mouth, maybe to apologize, maybe to beg. Whitney looked back at her, steady, quiet. The same quiet that Brooke had mistaken for weakness an hour ago. Whitney turned away. The next 48 hours dismantled the Ashford name like a house built on sand. The security footage leaked at 6 a.m. the following morning, not from the Quinns, not from the DA's office, from an anonymous library staff member who'd had enough. The video showed everything. Brooke's first insult, the slap, Whitney standing still with children's books in her arms while a 21-year-old woman, twice her social standing, tried to break her spirit in a public lobby. By noon, 12 million views. By evening, 31 million. The moment Brooke's hand connected with Whitney's cheek was screen captured, memed, and turned into a symbol of everything people were tired of tolerating. Comment sections became courtrooms. Strangers who'd never met Whitney Quinn typed her name like a prayer. Gerald Ashford held a press conference at 2 p.m. The fluorescent lights of City Hall washed the color from his face. Sweat beaded along his hairline. His hands gripped the podium edges so tightly his knuckles turned bone white. His prepared statement lasted 90 seconds before questions drowned it out. Did you order the suppression of security footage? Will you resign? Do you believe your daughter should face criminal charges? Gerald answered none of them. He left through a side door. The metal latch clicked shut behind him. The sound of a career closing. His chief of staff resigned that evening via email. By Thursday, the state party leadership asked Gerald to withdraw from the upcoming re-election race. He complied without a public response. His political life ended not with a hearing or a vote, but with a one-paragraph press release sent at 11 p.m. on a weeknight, when he hoped no one was watching. Brooke Ashford was charged with simple assault, a Class 2 misdemeanor. She received 12 months of probation, 200 hours of community service, and mandatory completion of a racial sensitivity program. The consulting firm where she'd interned terminated her the day charges were filed. Their statement was one sentence: "We hold our team members to the highest standards of professional conduct." Brooke deleted every social media account. The curated life, the brunch photos, the vacation posts, the selfies at her father's events, vanished like smoke. What replaced it was silence. The kind that follows when a person's name becomes a cautionary tale whispered at dinner tables. Whitney Quinn did something no one expected. She went on national television. Not to attack, not to cry. She sat in a studio chair under warm overhead lights, her hands folded in her lap, the fading bruise still faintly visible beneath a thin layer of foundation. She spoke with the same quiet steadiness she'd carried through the worst night of her life. "I don't want revenge," Whitney said. "Revenge doesn't build anything. I want this moment to mean something beyond one bad night in one hallway." The host asked what that meant. "I've asked the Quinn Foundation to establish a permanent anti-discrimination fund through the library. Legal resources, mentorship, scholarships for young people in underserved communities. Not just Greenfield. Anywhere a library is willing to partner with us." The host asked about Brooke. Whitney paused, her fingers pressed together. She chose her words the way a surgeon chooses an incision point. "I hope she learned something real from this. Not just how to avoid consequences, but why what she did was wrong. There's a difference between being sorry you got caught and being sorry you caused harm." 4 million shares in 2 days. Lorraine moved fast. Within 2 weeks, the library's operational funding was restructured under the Quinn Foundation's direct oversight. The building was officially renamed the Quinn Community Library in a quiet ceremony. No podium, no plaque, no speeches. Just Lorraine, Raymond, Whitney, and Mrs. Draper standing in the children's reading corner. Morning light poured through the tall windows and caught the dust floating above the new bookshelves. The smell of fresh paint and uncracked spines filled the air. Mrs. Draper had written Whitney a letter. 3 pages, handwritten on cream stationery, the ink slightly smudged where her hand had trembled. She apologized for her silence. She explained, not excused, the fear that kept her mouth shut. She offered her resignation. Whitney asked her to stay. "This library needs people who understand what they did wrong," Whitney told her. "Not people who pretend they were brave all along." Mrs. Draper stayed. She became the first coordinator of the Quinn Anti-Discrimination Initiative. She ran it like a woman earning back something precious she'd lost. Because she was. The shorter security guard, Collins, reached out too. He testified voluntarily in the DA's case. On the stand, his voice cracked as he described watching Brooke strike Whitney and doing nothing. He told the court he'd been afraid of losing his job. That fear, he said, his hands gripping the witness rail until his knuckles mirrored Gerald's at that final press conference, was no longer something he'd let make his decisions. 6 months later, the Quinn Community Library had 10,000 registered members. The mentorship waiting list ran 3 pages long. On a Tuesday afternoon, Whitney walked through the front doors. Not as a volunteer, as a board member of the Quinn Anti-Discrimination Initiative. 20 now, a sophomore at Howard University studying public policy. She stopped at the children's section, ran her fingers along the same shelf Brooke had once told her she was contaminating. The spines were soft from hundreds of small hands. Whitney placed a new book on the shelf, a story about a quiet girl who refused to be silenced. She smiled. Then she went back to work. When you see someone being mistreated right in front of you, which person in this story are you? The one who watched? Or the one who stood still and refused to break? Drop your answer in the comments. Share this. Subscribe. These stories aren't slowing down.
The story's over, but one thing keeps sticking with me. We usually believe standing up for yourself means fighting back, raising your voice, matching their energy. If somebody pushes you, you push harder. That's how you win. But the story taught me something different. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing. Not nothing because you're scared. Nothing because you have decided the person in front of you doesn't deserve the satisfaction of watching you break. That's the kind of strength nobody talks about. Because it doesn't look like strength, it looks like losing. The quiet person standing still while somebody screams in their face. From the outside, it looks like they have given up. They haven't. They are doing something harder than fighting. They are refusing to perform. Every bully needs the same thing, a reaction. Tears, anger, fear, something to point at and say, I won. Take that away and they have got nothing. They are just a person yelling into silence, and silence is the one thing they can beat. So the next time somebody tries to make you small, at work, at school, in a room full of people who would help, remember, you don't owe them a reaction. Your silence isn't surrender. It's a choice, and sometimes it's the loudest thing in the room. If you had been in the hallway, would you have spoken up? I would recommend hit like, subscribe. See you next time.